pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. On tonight's agenda, we have a land use administrative assistant candidate. 6:30, we've got an update on the town clerk tax collector. 6:45, a police station subcommittee. 7:15, we've got budget reviews, and then 8 o'clock we're into old and new business. Any opening remarks, new items to announce?
Just a reminder that this Saturday is trick-or-treating for the town of New Ipswich, 5 to 7 p.m. There are no restrictions on how it needs to be done. Just be smart about it, and if you do not want to participate, please turn off your light. Make it very obvious that you are not participating in trick-or-treat. It should not be an issue. It gets dark early enough. So just turn your lights off, and people will leave you alone. So.
Good reminder. We want to jump into the land use administrative assistant candidate.
You want to jump into what these folks are here for?
I don't know what these folks are here for. They're not on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
No, I'm not here all the time. My name's Isabel Kangas Braden. I live on 20 Kangas Road, which is a town road.
Mhm.
And the road is deteriorating. Would you be happy to, we've made some photographs. You happy to see that?
Sure.
This will, where Sean used to live. This will
Thank you, Isabel.
remind you of what Kangas Road looks like. The road was last paved, I think, in 2000 or maybe 1999, by David Leal, who was, very, I don't know, accommodating, but anyway. Since then, and it has deteriorated very badly, especially in front of my house, which is the large picture at the bottom. We would have liked this to have been in color, but we didn't have a color printer. You can see the tar in the middle of the picture is breaking up, and especially on the edges. And there are gullies on the side. I don't know if the gullies came out.
No, but basically everything that's debris was a road.
Yeah.
And we found some photography from 2015 where it was nothing like that. So it went from being a road to being half a road. To the point, it's a turnaround point too, so people come on and off the road, so it's just accelerating deterioration on top of plowing.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 years ago, there was an early frost, and the plows came up, but the ground hadn't frozen, and they just tore up most of the tar on that side. My house is on the right side of that picture, and then on the left-hand side it's quite bad, because most people tend to go towards the right as they drive up the road. And also, you can't see it on this picture, but further on down, near a shrub in that forsythia at the top middle, there are gullies, and sand and water are running down, and it's quite deep. And the rest of the road, it isn't bad. There is a hollow down near the pond where the culvert is, and water accumulates a couple of inches there in a heavy rain. The rest of the road is not breaking up, it's just old, but it's right in front of my house. And I really don't know what to do, because I can't control the snow plows, as my father used to say 50 years ago. It's just kids driving those plows, and they're too rough and so forth, but I don't know if that's true. So I did speak to Peter about having it paved, I think in the spring. He said, I'll be up tomorrow, but he didn't come, and I did speak to him one more time, and I think he said, well, I have to do what I'm told, or something like that, which I guess means speaking to you. And so I'm just back now. I want to retire here. I'm planning on retiring here. I'm living full-time at the moment. I come over when I can. And the road is just in terrible, terrible shape. And I'm afraid mostly of the gullies but also it's just all sand and the edges there are just a mess. So I think Peter needs your permission that there is money in order to repave this road. So that's what I'm asking about, you know. It is a town road, it's on the town map of 1840. It's described as just a short road off Temple Road. And my house was there in 1840, the house across the street came at a later time. So we have been there, we are a town road. I remember my father and Billy Sargent across the road coming to a selectmen's meeting when they tried to declassify it, and you know, you didn't tangle with Billy Sargent anyway. I'm sure you don't know him, but remember him, but he was pretty tough. So they said, no, we won't declassify it, you know, keep it as a town road. And I know it's a very short road, but we pay our taxes and have for 100 years, since next year's the 100th anniversary of my grandfather buying this farm. So I don't know what else I can say, except that I know there's this Purple Heart business. You probably know that my uncle, Leonard Kangas, was the only man from New Ipswich to die in World War II, and it would be nice if, I remember reading something about putting up road signs, Purple Heart Road Drives or something. It'd be nice to have the road paved at least, if it's a Purple Heart Drive or road or whatever. It would add, you know, some dignity to that road. So that's basically what I have to say. So I wondered, I mean, is there any chance of this road being paved sometime within, I know obviously winter's not the time, but next spring, next summer?
Based on the way we've been classifying the roads, that road is not a priority road. There's only 2 homes on it.
Yeah.
And if I knew you were coming, I could have taken pictures of other roads in town which have many more houses
Uh-huh,
and are in more of a disrepair
uh-huh.
than this here. Because I
Okay.
believe you sent a letter in
Yes, I
probably
did.
this
That's
summer,
what
and I
mentioned
took a
that.
walk down there to see the condition of the road. And I said, for a road that serves 2 residences,
Mhm,
the road was in good shape, considering that we have people on roads that are not even paved, with
Mhm.
many homes on
mhm.
those roads. So we're trying to do a balance, and as you should be aware,
Mhm.
you know, every year we've been putting forth a road warrant article to rebuild the roads, and the focus has been on what are termed collector roads, roads that are through roads to point A to point B,
Mhm.
not so much dead end roads, but we get the same scenarios for Mountain View Drive, what's the one off at Ashby Road there, Malthouse Road, there's a lot of roads in town that just,
Mhm.
but on the positive note, I think we're coming to the end or near the end of getting the collector roads done,
Mhm.
that the next focus then is gonna be
Mhm.
the ancillary roads. But to tell you that this road here is gonna be the next road,
Mhm.
I can't tell you that.
No, I know that. I just wondered if there was any
We can look at patching
hope
it.
for
We can
it.
look at patching, you
Yeah.
know.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, you know,
That was
Peter
the
should be
whole-
able to go down there and look at it, and,
Yeah.
you know, if he's gonna shim an area or whatnot, we do that with our own crews. All I'm referring to is when the town's been, going forth with the warrant articles, we rebuild the roads. In other words, whatever's there either gets pulverized and placed, regraded and repaved, soup to nuts.
Mhm.
If it's something like, because primarily your road, when you drive down there, it's not a bad road. Now, yes, I can see in your photos.
At the start,
edge.
it's fine, yes.
Yeah, but even, you know, if the edges are a little alligated or whatnot,
Mhm.
if there's an area where the pavement's out, our
Mm.
highway department should certainly be able to get a load of asphalt and go down there and spread it in.
Yeah, that's all that I would want, and also just to prevent that gully washing down the road, because it's just gonna get deeper and deeper.
Sure.
The other piece that happened is last year at the deliberative session, there was the warrant article for the roads. Some people put a addition to that warrant article, putting forth a road committee that would give their recommendations for what roads would be chosen,
Mhm.
and looking at that long term. So, I mean, the selectmen take that under advisement, but, in last year, when they brought forth, they had X number of roads over a 5-year period that they would be looking at. And basically, like Chairman Leitch said, is they're looking at the amount of traffic that a certain road would have.
Yes.
So a 2-home road probably will not be something that they look at too quickly. But again, patching I don't think is
That's
out of
all
the
that
question.
I would want. I know when David did it, and he did the whole road, but, and I can't even remember, because my daughter was asking me, well, when was it paved before then? I actually can't remember. But I remember it was very exciting whenever it was finally paved for the first time.
It's hard to remember when any roads here were paved.
I remember it being paved. Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So if you patched it, would that put, for it, in terms of having the whole road done?
No,
Would it push
no,
back the schedule?
no.
Okay.
And what I would foresee happening here is that it's not that we say, well, Kangas Road's gonna be the last road, okay?
Yeah.
What I would probably, go out on a limb and say is, probably when they were to do, say, Playground Road, Laurel Road, Kangas, you know, they do them all at one time, because to mobilize equipment to do just one road doesn't make sense.
Yes.
But when that's gonna happen, that's not on our radar right now.
I just wanted to know if there was the possibility that it would be, or were you, I mean, and you're not gonna say to me, no, we're never paving your road ever again. But, you know, I hope not, but I just,
No, the intent is to do all the roads and prioritize how we get there,
yeah.
so.
I know at one time the fire department tried to use the pond as a fire pond, and they stuck a hydrant in, but I know it didn't work. But if that was a possibility, would that make the road a little bit more important? No, I wouldn't think so.
They're right on,
Yeah, I know.
Temple Road.
I know.
Yeah, but
I
you don't
know.
wanna block Temple Road, there's a fire going on.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, no, it didn't work anyway, and the pond does dry up in the
Yeah,
summertime,
yeah.
so it's not a great pond. Can I ask you something, maybe, something else? That pond has problems, and, my father enlarged it in the 60s, really shouldn't have done that. It's stagnant, weeds are growing. Is there do I have to get permission or see somebody if I want to dredge the main pond? And who would I go to
The state of New Hampshire,
state of New Hampshire to
DES.
dredge the pond?
yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to get a wetlands permit from the Department of Environmental Services.
Yeah, okay, all
It's
right,
not
I just
even a
wanted.
named river, there's not even a name attached to the river.
No, it's part of,
Doesn't, yeah, it doesn't
It's
matter.
part-
If it's
yeah,
wet,
yeah.
they have jurisdiction of it.
Even if I wanted to fill in part, if I wanted to fill in part of it,
That's
Would that
even
be okay?
worse.
oh, filling
Oh,
in is
yeah.
even
Yeah.
worse.
They frown on that.
So the only thing we can do is enlarge it. Can we raise the water? I guess it's all
Well,
up to them.
we have to check with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, you
Yeah.
need to check with them.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, and one last question, is there any ordinance or regulation about how bright commercial lights should be? This is, Appleton Business Center has always had extremely bright lights, and, they've installed a new light, it is lighting up, what, remember I asked you today, how tall do you think that pine tree is? 80 feet tall?
Oh, yeah, 70, 80 feet tall.
It's lighting up this pine tree behind my house.
A
Why do
key
they have
thing
such
that
a
you
bright-
just said, a key thing,
Yeah,
2 things. Do we have an ordinance?
yeah,
Yes, we do, which is only maybe 2 years old. So as far as their facility, they would have been grandfathered. But did you say they added a new one?
well, I've never noticed it before.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I didn't see it in January. I was last here in January, and then because of the whole COVID thing, I haven't been able to get over, and I've been very brave enough to come over. So, I didn't notice it then, and all of a sudden, I noticed at nighttime, what is this, a light? It's like, it's right outside the house. It is shining directly up, and I looked out the kitchen window at the back of the house. It's lighting up the trees behind my house.
Hmm.
That certainly doesn't, they don't need to do
Yeah.
that. Can they
Yeah.
afford to waste that much electricity, lighting up my trees?
That's 300 feet away, by the way. And it's really only noticeable in winter. The foliage blocks it afterwards, but these are deciduous trees.
Yeah.
If
So-
they were there though, then no, we don't, but if it's something that it's a new light that got installed, then we would have to ask them to,
It's
abide by.
extremely bright, it's like a spotlight.
Yeah.
So I've never seen it before. This is the first time, so what should I do about that? I mean,
My recommendation is go over and talk to them. And if you get nowhere, then let us know.
I did that 30 years ago. When they first put up the lights at the back, and they were lighting up the field in the wintertime so that they can slide at nighttime, I don't know. So, can I
Jason's
ask one
trying to-
question? Who would I speak to? I don't even know who owns
Just
it.
ask Steve Crook. He still owns it, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Steve
believe he
Crook is-
does, yeah.
yeah.
Right, okay. I might get somewhere. He was
One
in my
more-
class.
Yeah, one more question. So the road you're finished paving or patching up for the year, correct? So the patching would only happen in the spring? Or is there a
No,
deadline?
no, I mean, I just signed off on a bill for hot mix that they picked up.
Okay.
Okay,
So we
all right, okay. Well, thank you very much. I didn't warn you I was coming because it just occurred to me when I got the Monadnock Legend last Thursday, selectmen's meeting. Oh, why don't I go to the selectmen's meeting? So,
Well,
that's
thank you
why
for
I
coming.
didn't, that's why I didn't give you any warning. Well, the last time I came to a meeting, it was down at the old police station, so, or the old building. Okay, well, thank you very
Yes,
much.
all
right, thank you.
Thank you for.
Thanks, Isabel.
Thank you.
Want to do the introductions, please?
Sure. So, I'd like to introduce Susan Mallett. Some of you may know her, she's on the planning board. After looking at a little over 20 candidates that applied for the land use administrative assistant position, Debbie and I have narrowed it down to Susan as being the best candidate, so we would like to give her the opportunity to speak with you and have you ask her a few questions and hopefully get your blessing so that we can move forward with an offer letter.
Good. Well, thank you for submitting an application and getting down to the why you're here.
And her cover letter and resume is in the book under tab 1. You wanna look at that?
You want to give us a synopsis without making us read?
So I thought, with the planning board, obviously, that might help me in a position. But I also have project management, human resources experience, event planning, so I know that would give you things with the town.
Oh, great, you can put it in.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we're not gonna have one, huh? It's COVID year.
What was that we're not gonna have?
The
Employee
luncheon.
luncheon,
Oh,
employee appreciation luncheon.
I was thinking you were gonna talk about some centennial celebration or something.
Do we have one on?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, 2020, we said it was 50. Anyway, carry on.
Go ahead.
So obviously with the HR background that I had, the last job I was doing, I did HR, like onboarding. So I would onboard, do all the paperwork, the human resources paperwork, and then I would train the employees to get them up and running so that on their second day.
What industry was that in?
What,
What type of business?
it was for IBM.
IBM.
So yeah, I was doing hundreds of employees every week, so I know that wouldn't be here, but. So it'll be a nice break. But obviously with that comes the confidentiality and discretion and things like that would need to be, a quality that the candidate here should have, right?
Mhm.
For the citizens. Also did a lot of, obviously I did software training, but I did software testing and documentation and things like that, so I could get up to speed quickly on whatever software you have here.
Now, you a member now on the board, or are you an alternate for the
No,
planning
I'm a
board?
member.
A member,
One
okay.
year. member. I don't know how that would affect, like, you know,
Just Sean's our ex officio member, so.
just on what?
It's referred to as the ex officio member.
Oh.
Planning board has to have a selectman on it, and it's an ex officio.
Oh,
Yeah.
So Sean's the one that volunteered.
okay.
And she also runs a few
Yeah, no,
Facebook, pages.
A few?
So- Yeah, so
A few.
she could do, the town Facebook page.
Yeah, one of my, the town I grew up in, I created a Facebook page, and that's got about 15,000 people on there. And I keep them happy, and nobody fights and fights and things like that, so that's
Good,
good reference.
congratulations.
Let's say it's not the New Ipswich one.
Yeah, the others are just, they're smaller, they're easier to wrangle. So yeah, I've also done web design, way back on my
Mhm.
resume, you see it, I did that. So maintaining the web page would be something I could do as well. Kind of a jack of all trades.
Good, that's what we're looking for, so.
Kind of what you have to be around.
Exactly. Learning the building department end and the assessors end, I'm hoping will be second nature.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think so.
Good.
We're also in a family of construction, so roofing and things like that, so yeah. It's just a piece of it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions, comments?
No.
No, I've seen Sue a few times on the planning board meetings and
Yep.
always active and,
Appropriate.
yeah, cordial.
Very good, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's an official.
That's official.
Yeah.
Have paperwork, I'll notarize it.
And we'll get that done tomorrow.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm also here for the police station.
Great.
Yeah, she reached out to be on that committee.
Right, super.
So I'm gonna hang out with you for a little bit more.
I would love to stay, but I'm gonna bail.
Is it okay to stay for the?
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
coffee?
yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Debbie.
Town clerk, tax collector update.
So just really to make the public aware of where things are at with the town clerk's office is we have somebody that has accepted the job as the assistant town clerk tax collector. But unfortunately, she has commitment to the town she's in now through the election season, so it's gonna be probably 2 or 3 weeks before she's gonna be able to move over here and be on board. In the meantime, Debbie Deaton is our official deputy for that office, and she's already spread thin working 2 other land use jobs, soon to be one other land use job. It's been challenging, and we certainly appreciate the patience that the public has had with some of the long lines. We think it's pretty much under control at this point. The lines have really subsided, so I think we've caught up on the pent-up demand. We are going to be open Thursday from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. This week for an additional day. We were open all day yesterday as well. And going into next week is going to be a little challenging because of the election, so we're going to have to take a look at what the schedule is going to be. My guess is, based on the election commitments that Debbie has, that she's probably not going to be able to do anything but one day next week, and it's probably gonna be Thursday again. But, we're gonna have to kind of check that to see what happens. But, on Monday and Tuesday, she's pretty much tied up with election-related, activities. And, you know, the town clerk herself is gonna be out for a period of time. It looks like starting, on Thursday. So tomorrow, she's gonna come in and do some work, but that's gonna be her last day for a bit. And, you know, we certainly wish her the best. And that's pretty much where we're at. We're hoping that as we move into the middle of November, we'll start to be able to get back to a regular, predictable schedule for that office. But time will tell.
Scott, do we have a date yet when the new person will start?
We don't. So her information for her background check went up to Concord, depending on how fast the state turns that around. She did already give her 2-week notice to her current employer. So that's why I say it's probably gonna be mid-November by the time she's able to get here and be productive, hopefully, assuming everything at the state moves along fast enough. And that has varied because of COVID, because they're working with staff that's working from home part of the time as well. So sometimes it's taking the state a little bit longer to turn things around for us, but hopefully we got the paperwork up there as fast as we could, and we'll do the same with Susan. And as long as the state can process that information, then hopefully we'll be able to move on with some expediency.
Since we've got 15 minutes before the police station subcommittee, considering if other people are coming, I'd like to jump over the budget reviews and into the old and new business. Do you think what the planning board, planning board, I know what that one is. Planning board correspondence.
Right, and that is under tab 3 in your books.
Planning board's asking about getting the GIS support. We've had a public hearing on that.
And we had a meeting and told them to put up a warrant article if they wanted it.
Correct.
I think this is a starting step towards that, so they just wanted to take like an official position, stating their support for it, and that's why it was asked to get circulated between all the different boards and committees, so that like that communication will, like the planning board will head up that movement, like to get the GIS.
Well, if they want to circulate it to the other planning boards, the other boards, they should be handling that.
Yeah, they can do that themselves.
They were bored.
There's no reason that Scott has to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay.
Because primarily, it should not be coming from the town administrator or the board of selectmen, because it's not going to be our warrant article, and we've already stated our position on it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Alright.
to have it come from the selectmen's offices, technically, you know,
Yeah,
is not appropriate, in my opinion. It's them.
yeah. So I can let John know then.
Well, I mean, I can respond to his email that he sent me, these documents if you'd like.
Either way.
And I'll copy all 3 of you anyway.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I recall Bob Boynton saying, you know, would the board be receptive if we were able to be shown some other avenue? And I said, could be swayed, but I've seen nothing from anyone to date on
Well,
how it would help.
they're starting on it now, and I think they're gonna all get together and try to make it happen.
David, are you looking for like a business case?
What I wanna see is how the average taxpayer is going to benefit. Because people I've spoken with, and I've asked them, hey, if they're looking to do this, what do you think? I have no benefit for that, and, you know, that's how we need to look at it. It seems to be, the support we're hearing is from boards within the town and not so much from everyday
Yeah.
citizens.
But, yeah, it's the boards that use, or could make use of the software. That's why it's coming from
Yeah.
Right.
them, you know, it's like a working platform for them.
So they think that they could use it. Right?
Well, that they do,
They don't generate anything. Planning board
They
does not
reference it.
generate a document. They take in the documents from engineering firms, applicants, whatever, but they do not generate. Right?
Just
Uh,
a perspective on it, but, you know, that's why the conversation needs to continue
yeah,
and,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why I say, hey, if there's
Yeah.
something that I'm not
Yeah,
clear
I-
on how it would
I mean,
benefit.
from my perspective, I think it is valuable for the land use folks, especially in support of the Conservation Commission and the Building Department. I think that's typically where we run into situations where a property owner is looking for specific information. And we have had a few instances where that I think would have avoided some conflict with property owners or some distress with property owners, because they do look at us as a source of accurate information regarding their property. And certainly, you know, the individual homeowner in town, no, they probably wouldn't see a huge benefit to having this. But I think in the day-to-day operation of what we do in this building and supporting the clients that, you know, the residents and contractors that do come in here, that tool would be invaluable in a lot of ways and really avoid a lot of bad situations. And like I said, we've had a couple of them just this year.
Yeah, I understand. My issue is I just, again, to look at average John Q. Public and ask him to pay for a system that benefits him zero and only benefits the people that are dividing land, expanding land, developing land. I have a problem with that, because what we should be doing is turning it back on those people when they come and go, I want to do this. Great. Have you hired a surveyor? Have you hired a wetlands expert? Have you hired these people to make sure? Because if you break the law, it's going to come down on you. That's the issue I have, is that, you know, to look at, and when I say this, you know, look at, you know, the large elderly population we have in town and go, hey, we want you to pay for this system that you're never going to use, ever. Means nothing to you, and that's my issue with it. It is a small section that it benefits, and even a larger section it benefits who don't even live here. It's real estate agents from out of town that are doing this. That's the issue I have.
Yeah, however, you know, many of these folks, when you look at the contractors, the real estate people, et cetera, if they are moving forward with a project, we are collecting fees, you know, whether it's a site plan review or building permit, et cetera. So they are contributing.
Not to that cost.
Well, so.
I mean, we would have to increase our benefits on that by
Well, we're talking about that.
right,
I
but
mean, we're already having that discussion about the cost of permits and whether they need to be adjusted. I mean, and hopefully we're gonna continue that and put something in place by January 1st. You know, from my perspective, I mean, you can make the same argument about why should I pay taxes for the school? I have no kids. You know what I mean? I mean, there's scenarios where taxpayers are contributing to the overall wellness or goodness of the town and don't necessarily utilize all those services. But when you need them, you know, it's nice to know, and often they do come in here, you know, the average homeowner doesn't know where to begin when they're starting some of these projects, you know, their septic system failed or something like that. They're really looking at us to be the resource and the subject matter experts to help guide them as much as possible. And they pay taxes and they pay our salaries to do that, and often we need the tools to be able to help them effectively. And like I said, because we've had a couple of situations recently where the information would have been nice to avoid some additional expenses for property owners had we known up front what the status of their property was, and in one situation that what the extent of the wetlands were. You know, then you can educate them up front that yes, if you want to move forward with this project, you're gonna have to hire a wetlands consultant to help you. Well, it would be nice to be able to tell them that at the front end of the project, so they can decide and look at their budget to see whether they can afford it, rather than to have them start the project and then come back and hit them with thousands of dollars worth of, you know, wetlands restoration costs, and or now you have to spend, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 on a you know, a wetland scientist to come in and take a look at your property.
But that's what should have happened at the beginning. The
Right.
town is not responsible to give them the guidelines on what they need to comply with. You keep saying that, and that
Well-
is not our obligation, and I don't see how this GIS system is gonna tell them whether they have wetlands or not.
Well, it should.
It doesn't. That gentleman
With
that did the
overlays-
presentation said his overlay will show what is truly there, doing the overlay on, say, Google Earth. Google Earth does not define wetlands. Wetlands does not mean just strictly where there's a pond or water. There's other characteristics that come in to determine wetlands, and
Well-
you're not gonna pick that up out of a GIS.
Well, it corrects the boundaries of the property like that.
So why would the owner's
And then there's, like-
engineer not pick that up?
Well, and there's, like he had said in the presentation, there's a lot of land out, like, the parcels of land aren't calculated correctly either. Like, this would correct that as well, right?
No,
Yeah, I think-
well,
I
it
think
does,
it-
but it's minuscule between the land that's not calculated right and what this difference is. I think, Selectman Visa had indicated at that meeting when, the former assessor did his calculations, it was only a percentage off that. Well, if this one here is bigger and this one here is smaller, when you factor them all in, we're at percentages.
Mhm.
You know, so if you look at telling an owner, well, you know, we've reviewed your deed and, you know, you've got 10 acres and your neighbor here has 15. Well, they should be able to know just by what they own in their property. If they get a tax card that says they have 25 and they have a deed that says I only got 15, they're knocking on the door here.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be done. And if that person, in the case of, if it's the one that you're referring to, up off of Poor Farm,
Mhm.
that wouldn't have had any indication whether we had GIS or not. It would have been,
So,
he went in with his own opinion of how he was going to do it.
so the issue with that is the way the initial decision on the building permit for that particular project was done was using the inaccurate maps that we have now that showed that on the back corner of his property, he had very little wetlands, when in fact, if the property lines in the tool that we were using had been accurate, it would have been much more clear that there was significant wetlands in the back part of his property that he could have avoided. And unfortunately, that, you know, that created a lot of distress. It ended up with the Conservation Commission, you know, filing a complaint against them with the, you know, Department of Environmental Services, and creating a lot of angst that I think, and not to mention money, that could have been saved had it been addressed on the front end before, you know, we gave him the go-ahead for his project. You know, and you know, my concern is that people are coming here and they're making decisions based on the information that we are able to give them. If we are not giving them accurate or complete information, then they're gonna get themselves into trouble, and, you know, they're gonna come back here, you know, fuming mad as to, you know, we misdirected them.
Isn't it
Because-
prudent on our part then to advise them, be sure you hire an engineering firm to review it?
So, I think, to put some of that burden back, you know, there are people in town that might want to engage in a project, but adding another $2,000 or $3,000 in engineering fees or wetland scientist fees to the project would mean a no-go for them as
Mhm.
far as their budget. And, you know, I'm
Should
not.
be a no-go. I can't, going down to the smallest thing of a septic system,
Yeah,
you need to have somebody engineer it.
yeah.
They're gonna delineate, say, hey, you got wetlands here, you know, we'll have to bring in, and that's how it's handled. The town shouldn't be saying to anybody, and I hope we're not, because it's not by any RSA that I'm aware of, the obligation of the town to delineate where there's wetlands, or to be able to advise a client or a resident that, yeah, we know you've got it there. I think the prudent thing to do is, by all means, make them aware if there's,
So where I think it becomes an issue for us is if we give them a building permit based on our belief that everything is fine with their piece of property, and it turns out that it's not, and that the building permit that we issued should now be revoked. Again, I just think that puts us in a bad position where we've falsely enabled somebody to start a project, you know, maybe even pour their footings or whatever it may be, and then say, oh, wait, you can't put your structure there, you need to move it, you need to relocate it after they've invested, you know, thousands of dollars of effort in it based on the fact that we issued the permit.
but doesn't the,
When we issue the permit, you know, we're basically saying, it looks okay to us. And, but we're making our decision to issue the permit based on incomplete information or inaccurate information. And so I think we do have a burden. I think we do have an obligation, at some level. And, I mean, you can push everything back on the property owner. You know, every time you wanna build something, you gotta hire a surveyor to go out and survey it, and a wetland specialist run around to see if you have the, you know, certain types of plant species or running water or even, you know, damp soil somewhere that would constitute a wetland by the state's regulations. But most average homeowners, I don't think, are even aware or would you know, want to engage that level of expertise for everything they want to do in their property, and that's essentially the burden we're putting back on that.
but the GIS is not giving them that information.
Well, I think
And
the
the-
combination of accurate maps from GIS and the overlays that go with them, and I believe that you can talk to Bob Boynton about this in the Conservation Commission. I think we do have a combination of things that would work with that GIS system, that when you start putting the overlays in, you start getting a more detailed picture of what each parcel of land actually entails. And, I mean, that's my position. It is a big upfront cost for this software, but I think once you make the initial investment, doing the incremental updates and the ongoing maintenance and support for that is, you know, just a few $1,000s a year. It's relatively, I don't wanna say it's trivial, nothing is trivial.
Right.
But in broad terms, it's a relatively small amount of money to be able to maintain that data, you know, perpetually into the future.
No. So I think that this memorandum is just stating that they're starting that process of gaining more information and support for the upcoming warrant article.
Well, the planning board
Hopefully.
will, you're gonna address this back to them, that they can contact the
Yep.
boards.
Yep.
What was the second?
The second one was them wanted to have someone else review the roads now.
Right, I think that's the program that, I mentioned back last spring when we were forming the road committee, that the Southwest Regional Planning Commission has a program where for no cost, to the towns, they have, I don't know, like 5 or 6 slots a year that they, make available to the communities that are in their territory, to come out and do, you know, somewhat of a road analysis, and they have some of the tools and the mechanisms to be able to do that. And at the time, my thought was that it was a good complement to what the DPW director and the road committee were doing. So it would be just one more source of information, doesn't cost us anything, helps us build a plan, you know, long-term on road maintenance by identifying certain roads and putting a program together to do that. And we're already doing that to some extent, but, you know, from my perspective, to have a no-cost program to get a sort of a second set of eyes on what we're doing and what our plans are for road maintenance and helping us prioritize, I think, you know, it's not a bad thing to do, and the planning board is basically, I wasn't aware that they were gonna make a recommendation to do the same thing, but, you know, I think that's, and I don't wanna speak for them because I wasn't at their meeting, but I think the rationale was that it's just one more free,
Now, we already have one of those, that's why I'm wondering why they're asking for another one.
so, well, I don't know if that they're aware that there is one.
When's that from?
The title is Road Inventory 27-2000. And it has every road, the intersection, the length of miles, the lanes, the road width, the type of surface, the traffic category, importance category, whether it's town maintained, a PCI index. I mean, and this is what we've been using.
I mean, I don't know else, so there's, and I don't have it with me, but Henry Underwood from Southwest Regional Planning Commission had sent me some information on what the scope of the other services that they would provide in that, so if you would like, I can.
Yeah, I would
Yeah, that's
look
fine.
into it, if they're going to wanna do it again.
Yeah, well, especially if that's from 2000, right?
I don't know when it's from. You asked me when it was done. I don't know.
Something.
The title on it is Road Inventory -27-2000, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the 27 would be for. But this is what we've been. It's not, it hasn't been arbitrary.
And then the last one was about,
I didn't understand their comment about our request is that should we be forced to return to face-to-face meetings because of the expiration of the Governor Snood's emergencies order, why would they be forced? He can suspend it, but if the planning board votes to do it via Zoom,
Well, so if the governor's orders expire, because they've given us during COVID a relief against having a physical quorum in the meeting room, we would return to needing a physical quorum in the meeting room. And the ability for board members to participate either by phone or by Zoom or something like that becomes more limited, but you still have to have, so you have to have a majority of the planning board in the room. And I think John's concerns are that they have some members with comorbidity issues, that they're concerned that they might be put in a position where COVID is still prevalent out there, and they're gonna be forced legally to be put into a situation where they have to enact other measures like social distancing and,
Yeah.
mandating mass meetings and things like that to protect themselves.
So a quorum would be 4 people though.
3.
He says he's got 7 members of a board, so a quorum would be.
Yeah, but he's talking alternates. The
No, he
board,
says the planning board has 7 members, land use, planning board alternates up to 3. So
the
he's-
planning board is only a 5-member board. The others can be alternates.
okay, I'm just going by his
Yeah.
message here that says he's gonna, expecting to have 10 people plus a land use clerk, so that'd be 11 people.
Yeah.
But he says the planning board is 7 so, alright, so he must be, but I mean, yeah, so you gotta have 3 people in the room and then everyone else can be Zoom if they have issues.
Yeah, so, and honestly, based on the scenario that he has there, I don't know that this room would fit that scenario. It would almost require, talking to the school for every planning board meeting, which they have at least 2 a month. You would have to see if the school could accommodate them, to give them the appropriate distancing, not only the members, but the audience as well. So that would be something that, in this case, Debbie is supporting the planning board, she would have to make those arrangements for every meeting on their schedule.
Yeah, if they wanted to have everyone in person plus possible audience.
When we come down to like a situation where they have to choose,
Yeah, what do you, I mean, if the majority of the team, the board has comorbidities, how do you pick who's gonna show up in person and put them at risk potentially? I mean, I don't have a problem, but yeah, do I wanna be in here if the whole room is packed?
Yeah, but I mean, for, the odds of that happening are slim to none. And normally if that's gonna happen, you would know that you have some sort of specific topic that's gonna be discussed that,
But just to put all of the planning board members in here at the table.
right, but I'm saying you don't need all the planning board members at the table. If only 3 have to be here, you could have 3 here and everyone else could be by Zoom if they felt that they didn't wanna come in.
including the public, probably like whoever's presenting.
So you
At
have
that time.
3 board
Yeah.
members or 4 people at a table. So you got your 3 plus the secretary
Yeah.
and the audience is there. If
Yeah.
you have appointments or you're running an agenda, you only have to have the people presenting,
Yeah,
and everyone else would be able to come in by Zoom. I'm just, but like I said, if they have something, then, Debbie would have to contact the school to use a space. I look at, we already have Zoom available. We have call-in available.
I think too, sometimes we need to look at plats and things like that in person,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Typically, those can be emailed out electronically. I know the request from the planning board went to the engineers that when they do their submissions, it's supposed to be an electronic submission included. So if there's a member that is zooming in, they should have received all of the documentation that they should be able to see it right on a computer, the Zoom. It's not as nice as having a nice big piece of paper in front of you, but
Right.
it does work.
And then, I mean, as far as a mask policy too, there's really, you can adopt a policy, but you can't refuse someone from participating. It's just, like anything else,
All right, so they're looking for a written response to their 4 points. So you
Well,
would
they're
have-
asking us to adopt policies and right from the beginning, since we ran into the COVID issue, we've been saying we're going to go by what the state guidelines are, because that is the authority we're given. We have no other, we can't make up rules as we go along. Unless the state has granted us the authority, we don't have it. And that was the same scenario we were up against when,
TLR.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying to think of how to phrase that. But, thank
Yeah, and I
you.
mean,
When
and,
that came in, is
Yeah.
that, you know, you can't enforce it, but the state can. So that's why we had to get the state involved, so. And I think
So-
if there's something that the planning board is looking for as a planning board, if they wanna schedule their meetings differently or at different locations or via different avenues of, electronics being Zoom, they should be doing that.
yeah, because I mean, the thing is if you do one thing, it could very well take out another thing. Meaning if this room isn't big enough, so you want to go do it at the high school, well, then we have no control over the electronic capabilities of Zooming at the high school.
Mhm.
That's their internet, that's their availability. That's, you know, one of them can, if they want to plan to borrow a classroom or a conference room or the library, you know, or something at the school, and schedule those, then whatever computer they bring and use is what's going to be, is going to limit them. I mean, the school doesn't have, you know, Zoom capabilities for a large room any more than we do.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory, did we use Zoom for any of those meetings we did there?
Which one?
Like when the gentleman did the presentation on GIS and
Yes.
solar?
Yes, we
We
did.
use Zoom,
Yeah.
so it worked for that.
Yeah, you have to log in and it does work, but again, where they're saying, you know, broadcast and Zoom capabilities, it's what's available at the location. And obviously, it's, like you said, if they wanna meet somewhere, if they don't feel safe in here, then they can reach out to the school and find a different spot, you know? But I mean, I'll let you know, I mean, last I knew, all the kids are back in school or planning to go back to school, but the school board isn't even meeting in person.
They are not meeting?
No,
No.
they meet by Zoom, but the kids are in school. So they 5 of them can't get into a room, but they'll put 20 kids into a classroom.
So on their request for a mask mandate, what's the board's feeling on that?
No.
No.
And let's see, and as far as Zoom capabilities, I mean, we are using, as you pointed out, Zoom and Colin capabilities right now. I think what they're asking, I mean, the implication here is they want that for 100% of the meetings versus, I mean, here we do it when we need to,
Mhm.
but typically we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we're doing it now because it's budget season.
right, and again, I would say if they wanted Zoom the meeting, then they can Zoom their meeting. Nothing stops them from Zooming their meeting.
Right. And we have an account, it's just what we
Yeah.
have the equipment, and I think everybody has that capability as far as I know.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if
Yeah.
the governor takes that away like that.
I think it's gonna be a long time before he would even consider taking that away. I mean, that's just my opinion. I could
Especially
be
with
completely
the
wrong.
case is kind of
Yeah,
a little bit of an upswing right now.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think John just wants to know that there's a plan if and when it happens, when it gets lifted.
It's tough to tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But no, I
Yeah.
agree, it's.
yeah, we'll burn that bridge when we come
The
to it.
case is.
The plan for the planning board should be up to them.
Yeah.
If they elect to, tell an applicant, hey, we're expecting a large public turnout or whatever, we're gonna move the venue to the high school and with the abominations.
Yeah, if there's some, yeah, and I would say then as far as where they discuss, the people that are there and everything, I would say, be honest with, hey, this is the agenda. You're on at 7, you're on at 7:30, you're on at 8 o'clock. Unless you are an interested party in the 7 o'clock meeting, we ask that you don't show up till 5 minutes before and,
Can we do that for a public meeting though?
mhm.
We
Yeah.
can and say you can't be here.
Well, I mean, they just realize you tell them, like, we're social distancing, you can Zoom, but I mean, it's one of those things that if, I'm not saying you can or you can't, but it's one of those things, if you say, we request that you wait until your time because we would like to be able to social distance in this room instead of having to rent a larger room, I mean, you, obviously, but the thing is you can't, like we were saying, prior to the meeting, we basically said, if someone comes in and you say, unless you're of the same household, you have to sit 6 feet apart. If Jimmy and Bobby, who are friends, who don't live in the same house, want to sit next to each other, you can't look at them and tell them, get away from each other, you got to sit 6 feet apart. You can't. That's just the way it is. You can't tell them to sit 6 feet apart. You can't look at them and go, put on a mask or get out. You can't say that either. We're not a private business.
That was the last one.
Yeah. So, want me to unmute the masses for your police station subcommittee? All right. So unless you have muted yourself, everyone is unmuted right now.
Yeah, before we go into the budget, I would like to point out that the Zoom is not particularly effective for remote attendees when you guys aren't even paying attention when people are trying to raise their hands.
Well, this is we're not on the we're not on the budget piece of it.
No, look, I'm attending as a citizen as much as I'm attending as a budget committee member. And when you were talking about the GIS, I wanted to weigh in. I couldn't. I raised my hand multiple times to try to get your attention. If we're not going to use the technology right, it's not going to facilitate doing the meetings remotely.
How come we don't see a picture of him on there? I see Mark and I see the board,
He
but
didn't start his video, and so a lot of people don't start their video because it
Look, I just think
bogs down.
we've got to pay more attention to the participants when they raise their hand, because otherwise, forget the budget committee. I mean, if any citizen wants to use this as a vehicle, they're unable to communicate with you guys. Yeah.
Okay, now Jeff's photo came up, but
Right.
Jack, you're still not coming up.
I don't have good enough internet where I live to do video.
Yeah, and same
quite
here, and
frankly.
I'm on the planning board.
So what is that?
Jack's
what's
point,
that?
there's other people on the call that aren't on the budget committee.
Right.
So I don't know why Jason and Melissa are on the call.
Okay, because we're not.
Regardless, they couldn't jump in anywhere in the course of the
Right.
meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Be,
That's my concern.
okay, they're on the call for the police station subcommittee, which is prior to the budget discussion. So that was why they're here.
But they're muted as well.
Everyone was muted.
Right, exactly. That's Jack's point.
But if we can't get into a conversation as a citizen attending the meeting, then Zoom isn't doing its job. We're not using it right.
I wasn't paying attention. My apologies. I was in the meeting.
But you wouldn't have seen it. That's what my
There was
question is.
a thing at the bottom, and I wasn't looking at it because I had my back to the TV.
Like he was saying, he's raising his hand.
So what's that blue?
He raised his hand.
Oh, that's the raised
hand.
It's over it occasionally.
I see Jeff raising his hand right in his photo.
No, this piece right here.
Yeah,
There. Now I lowered Jack's hand.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention because.
I get it, but if we don't, then it basically excludes people from participating.
Point taken. All right, can we go on to the police station subcommittee?
Yes. Is it Jason
Jeff is
Sommer
still
or
muted.
Melissa
by the way.
Goss?
So
Yes.
Jeff, I think you have to unmute yourself if you want to.
I unmuted him. I unmuted everybody.
My lip reading is no
There he
good.
goes.
Yeah, but I muted myself just to make sure I didn't upset someone.
Never stopped you before.
Go to bed, Jack, go to bed.
This is my first time using Zoom. How do you raise your hand?
If you're using the PC version, it's Alt-Y, Alt-T-Y.
Down in the lower right, there's a raise hand, yes, no, go slower, go faster.
Right.
So, there's different ways to do it.
Alright,
Okay.
All I see is clap and thumbs up.
All right. Well, don't do either of those.
It's very positive. There is no thumbs down.
All set?
Huh?
First of all, thank you all for attending for this meeting on the police station. We were looking for an advocate group to help the board in promoting out to the citizens in New Ipswich the need for a police facility. And our goal has always been that since last March, we were going to start trying to get the information out there. And when COVID hit and put a little damper in how we're able to communicate, have meetings, etc., we've been kind of lax on it. And I had a conversation today with the police chief, and because the voting happens in March and we're now in October, by the time this gets put together and we're able to get out to the citizens, he strongly recommend that the board not go forth with a warrant article for 2021, and that after the March vote in 2021, after the elections, when we can refocus again and start with a police advocacy group and the board and going forth with a plan for a police station. I will go on to say one of his other recommendations for the board is he thinks that if we put forth a warrant article this year for the demolition of Building 2, would help with the police station project at a later date, because right now that building has always been included in the cost for the police station of demoing the building, and I don't know that the citizens understand all of the costs that go in there other than the police station itself. So I told him I would bring that to the board and we'd be able to discuss it.
more people said
Somebody
it.
knocking?
Yeah, I thought they were out
I
there.
thought I heard
There's nobody-
something. Nobody's there?
Nobody was there when I went
Wow.
out to the lobby, so, unless the outside door got locked, that's a possibility.
Is that
If
on
they were
that
at the
time?
second door.
Well, the outside, see, the outside door would have self-locked at 7.
Someone who was at the far door, like the second door, like the.
Just run.
Oh, okay. Right. So what did we? So was there anything specific we wanted to discuss with them, or just?
Well, I think what would be advantageous is that if we can get that group together of who's volunteering, find out, you know, how they could see helping in advocating the police station and providing them with the information that they need or questions they may have would be the best way
Mhm.
to go forth with it. And that's why I had asked stopped by to see Tim today. I said, oh, you're gonna be at the meeting tonight, thinking, you know, we were gonna be going forth that way. And that's when he had told me he wasn't aware that the group was getting together and that his opinion is it's too short notice.
Mhm.
So
Well, yeah,
I
I'd
gotta
spoken
respect
to
that
Tim
decision.
probably 2 months ago, month and a half ago, and he said that he didn't really want to be an active part in like the group meetings or anything like that, like at all, because he felt like would get too political. So
Yeah, I think he's good to get information from, or
yeah,
get
like
a
he
point
said
of
he'd be a
view.
resource, but yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, besides it, like, you know, we have these people here this evening, whether it be in person or on Zoom. What is there a charge to them type thing, or, you know?
I would say at this point, compile the names and things that, to me, getting a person's area of expertise, let's say. For example, you know, I just met Susan tonight. She's telling me she's a Facebook operator, let's call it that. And social media seems to be the way to get messages out. So maybe her expertise is getting it out from social media. Somebody else may have the expertise of knowing different groups in town. So I think if we could compile that, so that once we get updated information next year, because I think the information we have now, you know, for 2 years away is gonna need to be updated, that at that point, give them the information and let them
Okay.
help facilitate the message.
The other piece I would like to see is, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but I know, you know, you may be looking at people that have different points of view on what's been proposed or what their overall feelings are. I think if everyone is able to discuss that peacefully, you know, just kind of explain, this is why I signed up, because these are my feelings towards the proposals that are there. And maybe list their reasons why. Meaning, if you are someone that is, I would like to change it to this because of these 5-6 reasons. These 5-6 reasons. Those are points that we can start to address, because my guess is if we have one person who has that feeling, you probably have 100 people that have that feeling or that opinion. So I think if we start to get that and educate the advocates on all the pieces, then the advocates and then can help address it out to their different sections of the New Ipswich community, because they're each going to have different, you know, levels of influence and circles of influence that they're within. And I think that'd be the other piece, is finding out, you know, where they stand today and how we can help educate them, and so they can help educate other people.
Now, like, should we start that discussion tonight about the, you know, chief's suggestion to, you know, demo building number 2, or like have a discussion tonight?
Sure. We got time.
Yeah,
I like
2
that you-
minutes.
You're thinking to break it into a piece, like demo the building, but how many other small pieces can we break out and maybe get those accomplished instead of looking at a one big project together?
Primarily, that project kind of had 4 pieces to it. The first was the demolition. The second was the relocation of those existing utility lines that go down to the DPW. And then we had the reconfiguration of the front entranceway and the construction of the building. Now, I could see the demolition of building 2 being a possibility, but I don't think construction or reconstruction of the entranceway and construction of the building should be broken out, because you're not gonna gain the economy of having a contractor here wants to do the site work.
My recollection, and I'm not sure if I'm recalling this right, but the building is empty, not used?
It's rented.
Oh,
Part,
it is.
part of it is.
Part of it
But
is.
it has a mold issue?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So are we taking on some culpability in case somebody?
It's all been I's dotted, T's crossed years ago that the building is infested with mold and there's nobody that's occupying it, they're using it for storage. But they were fully aware of it.
Okay. I'm just thinking, I mean, how can we make people understand that it needs to be torn down?
Any
See, when I
thoughts?
look at it, is that when you, demo
Do we
that
have a
building,
leak with the building that we're currently,
hang on, Jack, hang on, Jack.
okay,
When
Okay.
you go forth to demo that building, we need then to redo the electrical because that backup generator that we have is fed through that building. So that would have to get changed. And, one of the other items I think we looked at last week when we were walking around was maybe that generator would have to get relocated and at that time relocate the
Propane.
propane tanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Jack, go ahead.
yeah, I was just curious, by deferring the warrant article for the police station, and I understand the rationale, but my question is this, are we putting ourselves in a potential crunch if we don't have a long-term lease or at least a couple of year lease on the building that the police are in now?
We are
When
working,
does that,
Jack, we are working right now on a long-term lease.
you are?
Yes,
Okay. So hopefully we get one and therefore it doesn't become an emergency for us.
correct.
Okay, good.
No, and that was gonna be my question, is because we have electricity and, I mean, I know that the antenna, I don't think it's connected to the building, but it's right near it and
is
everything else,
connected
it
to
is
the building.
connected.
It's bolted to the building.
Okay, so we would have, so there is
There's
small
other
pieces
costs.
of the product, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just tearing it down,
Yeah.
but yeah.
My understanding from Peter, though, that they had relocated, because that building had the water line also, but I think he said they relocated it to the highway garage.
I know what they relocated some other pieces of communication a while back, I remember that as well.
Yeah, I think there was another antenna when we walked out there last week that's on the highway garage now. But, just like
Yeah,
this
he did-
building has antennas,
yeah.
I don't know what they're all used for.
So the antenna associated with building two also has the repeater for the police
Yeah.
communications.
And then, was there an antenna on the highway department also?
I don't recall him saying that.
Okay.
But, the low band antenna for DPW is on that tower as well.
So we'll end up getting that relocated somewhere.
Yeah. So we'd have to get some sort of, and I think before we can really look at it, we need some sort of number on what
Mhm.
it's gonna cost to,
Yep.
for those pieces.
Yeah.
And then, how do we wanna propose it, whether it's coming out of just a full warrant article, or whether it's gonna, a draw out of the, fund balance.
We could do it either way.
Right, but that's a piece to discuss, whether, because, I mean, obviously one is a majority vote and one is a supermajority vote.
What?
I thought the fund balance needed a 2/3, or is that just the bond needed a
That's just the
2/3?
bond needs
Okay.
2/3.
Yeah. I was confused, because I think we bunched them together on that one is what happened, and that's why I thought it needed 2/3,
Yeah.
so. Alright,
But, you're right, we'd have to get numbers on redoing the electric and the demolition of the building in order to put forth warrant article. We'd have to have numbers for that.
so I guess, did anyone that was here for the subcommittee, did anybody have any questions for us?
Jason,
He found his hand.
yeah.
No, he's clapping,
Jason knows how to raise his hand.
but he muted himself. Yes, Jason.
Yeah, I actually was trying to unmute, but the host had muted me.
I didn't mute Jack, evidently.
No, you didn't, Don.
Yeah, my question was, how much annual revenues does the rent of building number 2 give?
It's just under $20,000 right now.
And what does it cost to keep it? Do we have any cost?
So if we tear it down without the new police department even voted on, we'll be out that money
That's correct.
for.
Do we have to maintain that building?
You do.
We do?
He's saying no.
No, we don't.
What, maintain that building?
We do not maintain that building.
If there's a leak in the roof or,
Nope. Let it fall down.
so there's no cost to it?
Correct.
No. Right now with the current lease we have on the current lease we have on the police station across the street, and what we get for rent over there, there's about a $1,000 difference total. Like I think we pay an extra $1,000 when it's all said and done.
And I believe, do they pay taxes?
But that's with the current lease we have, which runs out in December, I believe.
I do not believe they do, but there is
Okay.
there is some question whether,
I thought
since
Jim
it's being used
Crockett once
commercially.
raised that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did raise it.
I thought that they were paying it, but I could be wrong.
I don't believe they are.
So I think the value to taking down building 2 is just showing the forward momentum towards the project, and then also separating that cost like from the total, so it doesn't look so big.
And again, my personal view on this is, as a taxpayer, I would rather see that all as one project, because now that cost is being funded on a bond that's over 10 years. If we do a warrant article, even if we say it comes out of the fund balance, you still raise and appropriate, but it's a lump sum dollar value coming out of there. And I'd rather see fund balance go towards the construction of the project versus just the demo. As much as I wanna see that building gone, I mean, from a financial point,
How much of the space over there is currently being rented? Because I know there's the big garage part and then there's the
It's just
different
the garage
offices,
part.
Just the garage
Yeah.
part. So all that communication and all that stuff we're talking about is all up in the office area. It's not in the garage part.
no, it is, the electrical room is in the back side of,
That side,
correct,
but that was where they're going to have their ammunition bunker at the one point in time.
but they don't.
I know
Right
they
now,
don't.
that's all rented space, and
So
that
then you are
generated.
into the office areas then too. You're not just the back garage.
When I was mentioning office, I'm talking about where the SAU office was.
You know, I was talking about what was renovated at one point for offices for the police department.
Which was on this side of the building.
Correct.
They're
That's
u-
what I'm trying to figure out.
they're
That
using the
really
warehouse.
large garage in the back also that the DPW was using at one point. I don't know if they are anymore. I haven't been down there in many years.
In where?
Its entrance faced the DPW in the way far back.
Yeah. DPW does not use
Okay.
that building at all. Nobody
Yeah.
uses that except for that one tenant.
Yeah. But the antennas are on that end of the building.
Yeah.
But you, okay, I'm just trying to figure out what sections are being used.
Just think of it as the warehouse area, is what they're using. And that warehouse area is where the electrical room is on that back wall.
So the space that's being rented out of that whole building, because I thought it was the whole building being rented?
Yeah,
Is it, it's a smaller section of it?
yeah, I would.
Can we relocate them? Do we have another building? We can relocate them and still get the rent into the building? Just trying to.
Yeah, we're not property rich.
Okay.
No,
Put them in the old schoolhouse or
yeah.
the highway garage. That's all I have.
Any thoughts, Diane?
My note sheet.
All right.
Any other questions? Comments, feedback? Go silent.
All right. Move on to the budget. So thank you for those that joined us for the police station subcommittee. We'll, Sean will be reaching back out to you.
Thanks.
I don't want to do it.
I want to do it.
I know.
Just in a different way.
Not that I don't think the budget reviews are fun. It's nice to chat with all of you.
Nice seeing you.
And I too.
Good night. Now, right now, I'm wondering if I'm the only one, but what I'm seeing in the binder is not what I received last night to review. Is that correct?
So the only thing that's different is now I have the requested numbers in there.
Which is what
No,
I'm
I
not
realize
prepared
that.
to review this evening.
Okay.
I mean, I can't react to something that quickly, personally. I mean, I've been asking for years that we get these ahead of time so that we can, at least a week ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
It came in last night, I started looking at it and I'm like, there's no numbers on here. I thought maybe we were gonna be doing the numbers and I'm like, I saw it in the book and I went back, maybe I didn't download it correctly, but.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, most of it's pretty straightforward. I did have some questions. I mean, I had some question on the second line. But that's whether, and I don't know, again, whether that's something like we had last year, whether we discussed that
I just looked at it.
public or
There's nothing
non-public,
here.
because it's that, and I understand we have people that don't like the way we did that. They have questions about it, but it's one of those things, we go about it, you can go about it two different ways. You can throw a large number in and then talk individual salaries in non-public, where you just throw a large number in, but my opinion is I don't like doing that because we could be artificially inflating the number instead of saying, okay, we're only going to put in exactly what we need. So whether we discuss individual salaries and then we have a number to put in there, which is I think how we did it last year. I know some people don't like that, but it's one of those things so that's just my comment on line 2, and I'm not, like I said, I don't even know where the number is right now for that or how we came about it. But I mean, I have my notes and from last year, so we can talk about this year. So I just wanted to put that out there first.
Yeah, so that's basically based on, we discussed, I don't know, it was last week or the week before, about as far as merit or COLA increase combination of 3%.
Okay.
So that's basically where that comes from, with one small caveat as far as an adjustment.
Okay, and I'm fine with that because we discussed that as well.
Yeah.
But I have no understanding of where the numbers are coming from. Typically in the back, we're
What
gonna
document
have,
are we looking at?
So.
Are we looking at the year-to-date expenditures or the budget worksheet?
No, so unfortunately, it dawned on me as we were sitting here that I should have emailed this off to you folks earlier today. And so I have the requested number. So the spreadsheet that you're looking at, the requested column is empty right now.
Okay, got it.
Right, so my mistake was, when I completed that, I neglected to send it back out to everybody so that you had it in advance. And being a Zoom meeting just complicates it, because I can't just take this and hand it to you, because you're not here.
Yeah. But that's what David just said, that he's, Chairman Lage is not prepared to discuss the budget, so.
Yeah, without the requested number, it's kind of hard to look at it.
Yeah, so,
Wait a minute, Mark's
Mark
waving his
is,
hands. Can
Yes,
you not
for
hear
some
us?
reason.
Hold on. I didn't mute you. I don't know who. You guys mute yourself, and then I can't unmute you.
Maybe you have an
Stop
auto-
touching stuff. There you go. Yes, Mark.
They kept telling me, the host muted me.
Did you have a question, Mark? You were just waving.
Well, I wanted to get unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Two, we already determined that there is no budget meeting. So three, I have a question for Scott. I sent you an email about the basic law of budgeting
Yes,
booklet from the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
so I
Do
do
we
have,
already have that? Or
so I found a hard copy in my office in the bookcase from 2015, 2016. But my thought was, based on your request, and I didn't have a chance to do it today, was to go on the NHMA's website to their store to see if we could buy the electronic version and download it so that we could share the latest version of that with everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like $70.
Actually, it's 50% off if you're a member of the Municipal Association, which I assume we are.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might only be 35.
So, all right, so
I think that would be very
I'll be,
helpful.
yeah, I'll be happy to take a look at that and order it tomorrow. And
Thank you.
if we can get it electronically, then I'll make it available to everybody, assuming I'm not
Sure.
violating any copyright laws.
And it was actually Jack's suggestion.
Jack? Well, thank you, Jack.
Well, again, I'm trying to get my head around the whole budgeting process, and after a year, I still don't feel like I've got it down. So that would be helpful to understand that.
Okay, fair enough. We'll try to
It takes what, 7 to 12 years to get good at this?
Well, my term is only 3 years. I don't know if it'll get
It's
renewed.
not just a job, it's a career.
Hey, I have a non-budget related question. Are we gonna, so I guess we're not discussing the budget.
Yeah, I apologize, guys.
No, that's fine. Scott, my wife applied or submitted her name to the cemetery committee. I know you had a vacancy, and she's not heard back one way or the other.
So,
Has that been filled?
so what happened is the member that stepped off decided to step back on. However, they could always use a couple of alternates. I understand I have to look at the RSA to see if that's possible. But, so there still may be an opportunity to participate in that. But, yeah, so we had an opening, and then, I got a call that he wanted to be back on, the cemetery, commission. So, that's where that stands, Jack.
Okay, I will let her know, but I think it would have been helpful if somebody had informed her of that. She was complaining to me.
So it would have benefited you.
Yeah.
How would it benefit me? Anyway.
Yeah, so,
John, what does that red thing mean? Does that mean he's
That's he
muted?
muted.
yeah, so,
Jason.
just to put it in
'cause
perspective,
I
Jack,
once I unmute them, I don't
receive somewhere
mute them
between
again.
100 and 200 emails a day here. So,
Understood.
I try to, prioritize and cull through them, but I often miss them because of the sheer volume.
I get 100 emails a day here, and I don't even have a job.
But do you respond to them all, Mark?
Mark, you just said you got a career.
All right, well, I'll let her know. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, I apologize, Jack. Once again. That's twice tonight.
Not a problem.
I blame
Not
that.
a problem. Just,
We
you know
got
what they say, happy wife, happy life.
regarding the budget, can we get a fixed schedule for?
Yes, that is coming. talked to my department heads today, I just wanted to make sure what their availability was before I plugged them in,
Okay,
so we will,
because we're running out
one
of
is
time
started,
fast.
yeah.
And I,
Yeah.
Scott, the FY 2021 budget worksheet
Yep.
that has all the departments in it,
Yep,
I don't think there's anything you can do about it, but it's not broken up by worksheet, it's one big worksheet.
right, so what I'm doing is I wanted to put that out to all of us so that we can kind of use that as a master. So
Sure.
as we're going through the budgets, we can just fill in the numbers and at the end we have a complete budget. But what I'm gonna be doing is as people are coming up on the schedule to present, is I am gonna be sending you the individual worksheets. So for each department or category, you will be able to, see it on 1 or 2 pages versus, what I sent you. But I wanted to make sure that you had the whole, package to start off with.
Well, we do.
Yep.
All right, I
Yep.
just was curious if there was gonna be a way to put it
Yeah.
on different worksheets.
Yeah, no, I've already broken it up into individual worksheets. I mean, if you would prefer that I send it out without the requested numbers in, I can certainly send them all to everybody to start with. But then as each department head puts their requests in, it's gonna be supplanted by their version.
Right. This is probably fine for now, what we already have.
Okay,
So Scott, you'll be sending us an Excel spreadsheet with the requested numbers for prior to each meeting, so we can review that.
that is the goal.
Okay, understood.
move on to, old and new business.
So it's actually not easier to take last year's master sheet and move the columns?
That's what I did.
Right,
So-
that's what you do every year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this year, basically, I just spit out new information out of the
Right.
MSI software. And, honestly, it's easier for me to do that than it is to build off the old one.
Mm. Will this make it easier for you to dump it back into the DRA when the time comes?
It should, yes.
And Scott, you said you were having difficulty extracting information. Is the spreadsheet for the Board of Selectmen's budget, was that a successful extraction this time?
It was, but each one I had to go through and do a little cleanup on all of them. And for whatever reason, when I exported from BMSI, in some cases, some of the formulas didn't carry over, so I had to go through the entire worksheet and kind of clean it up to make sure that the formulas would carry. And as I'm sending them out to the department heads to fill up, I'm asking them to kind of re-verify that the formulas are correct, because after going through several hundred lines of them, but I did try to make sure that they were accurate as I sent them out, so that it should be as simple as plugging the numbers in and all the calculations, should take place automatically for us.
The only downside, I guess, of that would be that the actuals won't necessarily be up to date as we go through the budgets.
Correct, so the actuals that you see in front of you are, a couple of days old. But they obviously, that's a moving target.
Well, that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
as we go through the budget over the different meeting schedules, that number will get less and less accurate.
That is correct. Yep, we have another 60 days to go, and, there are some line items that don't get spent until toward the end of the year. Some of the department heads hold back some of their spending just to see how the year is going before they make some final purchases. So you might see a line item that says it's got 75% left, but they already have that targeted for something that they're gonna purchase in December. And, that's just the way it is. Not much we can do about that.
No, just wanted to make sure I was correct in my assumption.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what-
You're not gonna try and recreate all of the worksheet references like the old master had. I'm looking at you when I say the old master, Mr. Chairman. That all roll up on the first page.
I do.
You're gonna recreate them.
I have that already.
Technically, you can do that. It's
Yeah.
not a problem once you get all the individual sheets. It really isn't.
Well, it's not no work.
Well, it's his work.
I'll tell you
It's
what,
my,
it's
that's
a
what
lot
I
easier to
do,
go
that's the
through
only way I
the
can
line.
understand it, so
All right,
that's,
all right.
Mark, I'll do it for you. As we get each tab, I'll sum them up and give you a sum table as well. How's that?
I'm not gonna touch that.
okay, moving
This is
along.
live.
All right.
Alright, we're gonna move along.
All right, we're gonna.
One of the items that's not on the old and new business that I just didn't wanna forget about because we're coming up to this budget. Did you reach out to the Park and Rec director regarding the pool
Yes.
director's position?
Yes,
Okay.
and she does want to assume those
She
responsibilities.
does, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Did you forward to her then the information on the pool budget from last year to help assist her?
She will get that, she doesn't have it yet, but she'll
Okay.
get it. It's ready to go.
Okay.
It's actually, I combined both of those into one spreadsheet. Since it was just going to the same person. Seemed to simplify it.
Police station lease,
Yeah, so under
I think-
tab 4 in your book is,
I think should be a non-public, that's under negotiations of lease.
Yeah.
So I'd like to save that
Yeah.
till the
That's a
end.
okay,
it's a 2D.
You have,
Yeah, could I ask a question on that?
sure.
I'm only here for that purpose, to find out, if you have a time frame when you're gonna move forward with an answer on that. Like,
Soon.
yeah, I mean, is it a week, 2 weeks? I'm the realtor that has the buyer, and I might have to go under extension if we don't know when this is gonna be sorted out.
I would think within 2 weeks we should be able
Within 2
to.
weeks.
You guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right, fair enough.
okay. You have an item on here, is this an update or is this from last week, police officer candidate completing testing?
just an update, so,
Okay.
Tim wanted, me to make sure that you are aware that the candidate to fill, Officer Upton's position is moving forward with their training, this week. They had unfortunately had to take a few days off because they were concerned about being exposed to COVID, so they had to take a break till they got their tests back to say that they were negative. So, that is moving forward and they hope to fill, get that position filled with him, assuming he passes all the testing, that they're gonna do. And then they're still recruiting to fill, the other upcoming position.
Am I missing something? When I spoke to Tim this afternoon
Yep.
regarding the an applicant.
Yep,
He had said that he had heard back from them and that they were taking a position with Hollis. Is this a different applicant?
this is a different applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this candidate would be a new police recruit, or is this a current officer?
No, new police recruit that would
Okay.
need to go to the academy.
Okay, thank you.
Because I thought we only had one that he was working on.
Right,
Alright.
that's the one that's gonna be undergoing testing. The one that David is talking about that took the Hollis position was originally
previous.
in the mix, but because Hollis was offering more compensation than us, decided to go in that direction.
Alright.
Gas and diesel prices for 2021. I haven't looked it up, but have you?
I have not.
Okay.
I don't know what you base it on, so,
And I'll look it up for next week's meeting. There's a U.S. Department of Energy, I think it is, has a rate, and that's normally what we've been plugging in. I'll forward that to you.
okay.
Salt shed RFP meeting and waiver requests.
Right, so just a reminder, we're having a pre-bid vendors meeting here Thursday morning. So mandatory participation for vendors that wanna bid on the project. We did get, under tab 5 in your book, I did get a request from one of the potential vendors. They would like us to waive some of the requirements that we have in the RFP. And I wanted to bring it to your attention tonight. I'd like to get back to him, obviously, as quickly as possible, and see if there's anything in there that's objectionable. And then we can just, if you are willing to make.
Hey, Scott, a question on that.
Yep.
If you have a bid out with requirements and a vendor asks you to reduce those requirements or change them, does that apply to all the bidders?
Yes, so
Yes.
what we do is we would issue an addendum to the RFP, which is already stated in the RFP document itself, that if addendums are issued, that all active bidders would have the ability to get that information before they submit their bid.
Okay.
I don't have any issues with his requests.
I'm only on number 2 so far.
That's okay.
Trying to
So,
understand what it is
yeah,
he's asking.
Well,
Yeah.
the good news
Yeah.
is that he's being very specific and he's actually read the RFP.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that, so, which is why, and then he gives very good explanations.
Yeah.
I agree. With the three items.
Okay.
completely agree. Seems like we're gonna end up with a better.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean, I specifically look at number 3, and he's bringing to our attention that we're, you know, basically out 1 year, if I'm, or we were allowing a lower
Well,
specification, or an
Is that the
older.
one on the code? Because the code
Yes.
got adopted in July,
Okay.
so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually wrote this before that.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so it's, like you said, I mean, yeah, if we ask for the most recent, then they should be bidding the most recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we go into non-public, is there anything else?
I had 2.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
We received an email this week from the checklist, or whatever, saying that, did you reach back out to the Attorney General's office about the using the
handling.
Dropbox?
So, so the Dropbox is a no-go at this point.
It just seems ridiculous to me that,
So, and, you know, the deputy town clerk and the moderator and I had that discussion with, a member of the supervisor of the checklist as well. And yes, it seems, ridiculous in a way, but, I did talk with the representative from the Secretary of State's office today. And, you know, they made it clear what we have to do. So what they're asking us to do now is everything in person, so when somebody wants to drop off their absentee ballot application, for example, they now have to hand it to somebody. And because we're so close to the election, the expectation is that we immediately hand them back their absentee ballot. And I explained to them that based on the limited resources that we have and the limited hours of operation, that is gonna be difficult for people. But they felt that trying to use mail at this point, because we're so close, that trying to get an application in and a ballot back and then the ballot back by next Tuesday is gonna be difficult for a lot of people. So they were content that we're doing what we can with what we have. There is a possibility, and the Secretary of State's office was gonna discuss it, on whether they could provide another human resource for us. And I'm like, well, we're practically, there's only a few days left between, you know, now and election, pretty much, as far as business days. So I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to come up with a extra resource, or whether they want to, or whether they're gonna talk about it and feel what we're doing is adequate at this point.
And stretch it out until Tuesday?
Pretty much. Now, I mean, there are other things that we're putting in place, and the supervisors are putting in place, and the moderator are putting in place, as far as increasing availability over the next few days to residents, as far as getting ballots, returning ballots, registering to vote even. So some of that activity is still going on, and there are specific things, like there's on Monday, there's a mandatory availability that the town clerk has to have from 3 to 5 on Monday for any of the last minute absentee ballot requests, etc. So we are already planning to do those things. So when we hung up the phone, I think she was satisfied that we're doing the best we can. And they are willing that if we do need help, she said, to pick up the phone and call them, and they'll see what they can do. But honestly, I think we're in very good shape. As of yesterday afternoon, every absentee ballot request had been fulfilled. The only thing, you know, she said she got a couple complaints from people that they didn't get them back, and I said, well, that's just not the case, or they couldn't track them on the Secretary of State system. But as of the end of the business yesterday, all of that information was up to date. All of the ballot requests have been processed, and the only thing that we haven't completed yet is the ones we actually received today. That's kind of where things are at.
So what's the process, Scott? Do they come in, ask for one? Do they fill it out and then hand it back, or do they
Right,
take it
so
home?
so all along, you know, at least over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had a stack of absentee ballot applications right in the lobby. It's downloadable off our website, it's downloadable off the Secretary of State's website. And the process was for people to complete those and then mail them in. Once they mailed them in, our job was to mail them back the actual absentee ballot. And then they could either drop that here, you know, the completed ballot, or they can, you know, all the way up to the end of, I think 5 o'clock on election day, they can bring their absentee ballot in.
Here or to the poll?
Here and the polls.
Okay.
Either way. So, on election day, between 4 and 5 o'clock, Debbie is gonna have to come back here to make sure that she collects any last minute absentee ballots that were brought here and not to the polling site, and then bring them up there to be tabulated. So I think we've got a good handle on it,
So what's the cutoff date? Did we meet the cutoff date that they don't come in for an application?
yes, we have not missed a deadline.
But has that date, because I'm thinking
I think,
today's Tuesday, if somebody downloaded an application and mailed it in to us and we mailed out an absentee and.
Well, so part of the advantage, if they're in town, is that the post office has agreed not to send any of those mailing requests into the distribution center. They're keeping them here and literally delivering them the next day.
But I think Bob said there's a cutoff on Monday.
There is on Monday, right?
So I think, I'm sorry, and you just said it now, between 3 and 5, someone can walk up till 5 o'clock on Monday and say, I want an absentee ballot.
Right.
And what I'm trying to understand better is the difference between asking for an absentee ballot and asking for an application to be submitted to get an absentee
Well, you still
ballot.
have to do that. So they have to take
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Right,
take
so
the
they-
application, they fill it out, they hand it to you. As soon as they hand it to you, you hand them back a ballot.
So they can't come in and just ask for an absentee ballot. They have
No,
to
they
do
have
an
to fill out the
application.
application. The application then has to be certified that they're a registered voter.
Okay.
Once we're sure that they're a registered voter, then they get the absentee ballot, and not
Understood.
until.
Okay.
Good times.
Mm.
And then
Do you have
my,
a record of how many have gone out, or how many have?
We're somewhere, I think we're approaching 400.
and then my other question was only because it popped up and I had no idea what, and it's, I understand it's on gonna be some other week. What's the question on the COVID policy for the town, for the employees?
So the fire chief raised the issue, and I don't know if you all saw all of that.
I saw one correspondence.
But basically, because of some of the new testing procedures,
Mm-hmm.
the question was, if we had somebody that thought they were exposed to COVID, we typically have a 14-day quarantine period.
Mm-hmm.
What she was asking is, can we shorten that up or waive the 14-day if they can take a COVID test and prove that they're negative? And she wanted to change the policy, and I said, well, actually, if you look at the policy, there is already in that 14-day quarantine paragraph is that it is up to the discretion of the Board of Selectmen if they want to waive that or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see a need to rewrite the policy. I think we already have verbiage in there that allows the three of you to look at a situation and make a discretionary decision on whether somebody needs to have the 14-day quarantine period or not. And her concern is, much like Chief Carpenter's concern is, you get a small group of people, so if you take 1 or 2 people, off the front line because you're waiting for a 14-day quarantine period, then that leaves them short-staffed and it limits coverage.
Yeah. Like I said, my only opinion towards that, just, you know, so it's clear, is which test they're taking. That's always gonna be my question, just so, I mean, so you, if that comes before us, that's gonna be my question. Rapid tests are highly error filled.
Right.
Where if you do the longer test, it's 48 to 72 hours before you get a test or get a result, but they are much more accurate.
Yeah,
So-
and I expressed that, and I said I said it would be up to you to decide how you felt about the accuracy of those tests, so I
Mhm.
already put that out there.
Because that's my thing. I mean, and nothing against, it was just, you know,
Yeah.
back for, I think, I mean, she said she'd been back for, and not to her, but just in she said gotten 2 negatives, so I'm assuming she took a rapid test and then the 3-day test or whatever, which I know other people have done that. At least they get the rapid test and they go, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better about, you know, not freaking out, I just have a cold, and then they get the, you know, the results off the 3-day test, and it's much more accurate. So that's my only thing, is that, you know, if that comes before us and they've only taken a rapid test, that's gonna be my stand on that.
So I think that's what, like, she wants to have that written, like, as a policy, maybe like outlining what it's gonna be. Like, instead of it being case by case and having to wait for meetings, or like, instead of just leaving it at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen, like having us determine what would be the parameters of that.
What's raising this whole issue?
Just not
Something
being
is-
short-staffed.
I think-
have a feeling
I
I'm
think
getting
maybe-
half a story.
I think she brought it up, maybe, or she brought it up because of the issues that Peterborough faced. They had like 12 EMTs or 12 first line workers come down or be exposed to COVID.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, if that had now they have a much larger force, so they were still fine. They lost 12 people for a potential 14 days. They just kept operating. If we lost 12 people, we're done. You know, like we don't have enough people to respond. So that would be my guess, is that she was looking at it just in case, you know, if this were to come about. But I would look at it as, if that happened, I don't think it would have to be each individual person coming in and going, can I go to work? Can I go to work? I think it would be the selectmen could put out a general thing of, if your people take a full 3-day test, not a rapid test,
Mhm.
at that point, if they can, you know, provide, you know, the 3-day response saying, or the, you know, the full test, then yes, your people can go back to work. I don't think we have to sit here and go through every one. But I think, again, if you start looking at stuff, you know, it's one of the things, you overwrite the rules, you're gonna miss even more stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's just having that broad blanket statement is a smart way to do it, you know, because otherwise it's, well, you let him in, you didn't let me in, why didn't you let me in? You know?
Well, that's why, yeah, like, I think that she wants to remove the vagueness of it and have like a set standard.
Except that if my issue is, if it's just a set standard, and, you know, let me throw this out there, okay? You test positive, okay, at your house.
Mhm.
Your child lives with you. Your child is on the fire department. They come and go, I tested negative. Great. You still living with your dad? Yeah. Then you can't work. Where if I just put it in there, go, you come up with a negative test, you can go back to work.
Just for my own understanding, is Peterborough Fire Department full-time, that, you know, they're
I believe they have full-time fire department.
24-hour shift type thing, so they're.
I'm not I'm
Yeah,
not positive on that. I don't know.
just, cause I'm trying to understand the correlation between them and us, where ours is a volunteer fire department.
Right, but I think she's just saying, like, if they had 12 people suddenly get exposed, they all, you know, at one function, whether it be, you know. So I understand her question, but like I said, it's one of those, I think at a certain point, you would have to say, you know, that, well, if you're not changing your environment where you were exposed, then I can't sign off on you coming back to work.
But I'm thinking as a board of selectmen, we never know about that example that you just had given.
Except you can ask that question. You can ask where they were exposed. Like, where were you exposed? Are you around, there's a questionnaire that you can print off, and it's like, were you around someone for longer than 15 minutes in a 24-hour period, like consecutive? When you're around, were you around this person, were you within 6 feet, were you wearing a mask, you know? So you can kind of ask, is this something, you know, and they go, yeah, it's, well, it's my dad. Okay, so you live with this person, yeah, and they're COVID positive, yeah. Are you know?
Yeah, but you're coming up with one scenario, and I understand what you're saying, but
that's what I'm saying.
I'd like to see what she.
But so
like
what
she has.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if you make it,
Mm.
you know, come up with a, you get a negative test, you can come back to work. And I just said, well, you come up with a negative test, but you're living with a COVID positive person. I know someone right now who came up with, husband came up positive, wife came up negative.
Yeah.
She's got a 14-day quarantine. They're literally living separate ends of the house. They're nowhere near each other until they've both done their 14-day quarantine and been tested negative. But if you're, you know, if that situation can't happen, that's something that we should be able to address.
So is it that
You know?
we
Yeah.
would need to, identify the checklist that they would, no matter what, have to answer,
Mm-hmm.
and then tie it back to a 3-day test?
Yeah.
And do we have a form with those questions?
I'm sure Primex has a form.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure they do, because mine
Yeah.
was like, you know, we get them, like it's a form that we get, that if you have an employee come in and say, you know, so then you have to go to every other person in your facility and go, hey, I need you to fill this out. I need you to fill this out. I need you to fill this
Every
out.
job site I go on to has those forms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
What
I
is
mean,
that standard form,
It's probably a CDC.
Yeah.
like I see
yeah,
on
it's
the
probably,
job sites?
yeah, it
Yeah,
probably is
yeah.
a CDC.
I thought this was something
Yeah.
different from
Well, no, I don't
first
know if that's what
responders.
she's proposing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So,
but,
you know,
yeah.
my thing
None
is,
of us
that, I
have
mean,
enough information.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
You
yeah.
will tomorrow.
So I was just curious where this was coming from, what prompted it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it came out of nowhere, and I'm like, what's going on?
but that's something else I want to address here,
Mhm.
is correspondence is going via this email, and I know I'm not seeing some of it, and that's not how it should be done. I mean, if there's an issue, address it to Scott, let him make sure we get the information.
Mhm.
I mean, when I read it, I'm like, what's prompting this, you know, and I don't wanna respond back and get into a dialogue.
And
you
that's
know,
and that's
just-
kind of why, I mean, and that's what got me is that, like I said, it came from her and mentioned you,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think I saw his that mentioned hers, and I'm like, I
Well, that
didn't
was
see anything
today.
from her.
Yeah, and then.
Yeah, and then but then, you know, I got the one, you know, I scheduled you at 6:10. She's like, thank you, whatever, and then it came back that she wasn't on the agenda,
Yeah,
and I was like, well,
What
I
happened?
thought we were doing this, you know, because you know, Scott's got a lot on his plate, you know.
So I'll
And-
tell you like how it started to go to Scott. I did what you said because she had called me Thursday or Friday of last week and stated her concerns about the lack of like a COVID policy for the first responders or how the situation's changing. Mentioned Peterborough, which I didn't quite understand the whole situation. And I said, you know what, if you want it reviewed by the select board, let Scott know and get on the agenda.
Yeah.
So she did. Almost immediately emailed Scott and asked to get on the agenda.
Yeah.
And
But-
then after the email came that she asked to be removed from the agenda, which apparently you and I were the only ones on it. I thought it was to everybody because everybody was on some of the communication, and I'm not controlling any of that
Right.
email stuff, like who chooses, like who Scott puts on it, who anybody puts on emails. She called me half an hour later and just stated that she had spoken to Tim, and Tim had similar concerns, and they felt it was better than to come into a select board meeting to address it at the department head meeting with Scott. So she took herself off the agenda to talk to Scott tomorrow about it, and I said that
The
was it.
frustrating part for me is, she, you know, and the agenda was almost posted at that point when she called me, and said, take her off.
Mhm.
But she didn't tell me why she was taking her off, and, you know, taking herself off the agenda, nor did she tell me that she planned on bringing it up at a department head meeting. So you get these cryptic, vague messages.
Yeah, and like I can't
And
control
I'm
how she
trying to-
communicates.
No,
yeah.
I know, but you can
Yeah.
understand my frustration, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if the way
And
Scott
why?
says, if the current policy says at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it would've been great to have her here tonight, and we could've
Yeah.
gathered all the information.
But I think she wanted
possible.
she wanted to pull back and talk about it with Scott. Like she
So it's
didn't want
not
to
an
raise it to
urgent
this
thing,
level.
it can wait another.
Yeah, maybe another cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Well, we're not meeting again for 2 weeks now because of the election.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I do remember seeing something come from the Department of Safety or something, and I did not read the whole thing, maybe a week or two ago, about testing for first responders. So that's what I thought at first was
And
prompted.
maybe that, like, I didn't, the phone call last week was maybe 5 minutes, you know, like, and it was just, again, you know, referring back to the communication chain, and then today,
But the thing
she
that
didn't want me
also
to think, like, she wanted to clarify why, you know, like, and I wish that she would have done that with you too, and just said, hey, you know, I spoke with Tim, and then, I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what's going on there. I'm
Mhm.
gonna try to get to the bottom of it tomorrow.
Mhm.
And related to that, under old and new business,
Yeah.
is under tab 6, is put together an org chart, a basic org chart. And honestly, I want you to look at it, and I need to have folks understand what the chain of command is here. And I'm not big on hierarchies or that sort of thing, but I do need folks to understand where I sit and where they sit on this chart, because I think some of them are confused.
Just real quick, I just forwarded you
Yeah.
an email that has the form in it. Like I said, if Primex
Okay.
doesn't, I'm sure Primex has one,
Yeah.
but if not, it's just a general form.
Yeah.
So
All right, great.
I don't even think it has our company's name on it, so.
I have no problem with that. Well, Chad, the only question I have is, as the Board of Selectmen, I deal with them a lot directly.
Oh,
So as long as it's flowing both ways.
and believe me, I'm not looking to be the gatekeeper.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is what I do need people to understand what the,
And the only other one that I would change is facilities.
yeah, I stuck it there, because we kind of share responsibilities, because he does two things. You know, he helps out DPW at times, as well as,
But in that position,
Yeah.
it should go straight to you,
Okay.
not,
All right. Be happy to change it, because I was on the fence on doing it either way.
yeah.
In the rec department, somewhere around there.
So, yeah, I was mostly concerned about general, I mean, rec department,
These are more employees, right?
yeah, the,
Could still, I don't know, doesn't take up any, you know, a little bit more ink, right?
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
could, you know, there are a few categories that, I mean, if you want,
I mean, if that's I mean, you could end up
Might as
filling
well.
it up because you'd have planning board, you'd have, you know, zoning, conservation, they'd all just end up
Yeah,
putting under where, you know, in all reality, they'd, under the Board of Selectmen, really the boards operate on below the
Yeah.
Board of
I
Selectmen.
mean, Parks and Rec does probably report in through me as well,
Mhm.
but, whereas the other boards are more independent, you know, they're elected, appointed boards and committees, so,
Alright,
but I can stick it in there, that's not a problem. Just another line in another box.
I like the flow. I wanna see it all.
I was trying to keep it simple, and I didn't
Yeah.
wanna,
I think that's simple.
I didn't wanna make it look like it was
Like the
IBM's
whole
org chart.
tree.
Yeah.
Alright,
All the way down to the roots.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, the last thing I had under old new business, just wanted to give you an update on LED lights, and where we're headed with that. And I just literally got this email just before putting our stuff together tonight. This is from John Brannigan at Affinity, and he says, we have your GIS audit scheduled with our specialists. We should have the map wrapped up soon, and we'll review our findings with you after we sort everything out with Eversource. Once we get the map, we will get the installer scheduled and get your lights converted. As we get closer, let us know the address where you'd like to have the lights delivered. We often use the DPW garage, so I can take care of that. So, that's.
So
that's
other
kind of-
than what we already knew, we have nothing.
Well, so the reason I reached out to him is because I was expecting that the totes with the fixtures would already be here, because he said he had 40-plus totes coming, and I had already talked to Peter about, you know, space where we could stick them.
Yeah.
And this was kind of dragging on, and I had, you know, left messages, sent emails saying, okay, I thought we were supposed to have a pre-construction meeting here, what's happening? So this was finally his response, and he apologized for the delay, but,
So it sounds like the earliest is gonna be the end of November.
well,
sometime.
so the contract reads, you know, November 1st through March
Yeah.
31st is kind of the window they have to install them. In any case, I just wanted to let you know what the status was and that they haven't forgotten us.
The other thing, when you mentioned that, it brought something else, unless you have something else.
Nope, that was it for me.
The correspondence from Doug Waite regarding
Yes.
that and the energy
Yep.
audit. You wanna,
Doug Waite has agreed to basically do an analysis of the fire station, this building, and possibly building 3, for gratis, to the town. So he's gonna come in and take a look at our systems and recommend options, so he's not necessarily gonna give us one direction to go in, he's gonna give us alternatives appropriate for each building that we can consider. And then we would then take that information, decide, have the board decide what direction they'd like to go in, and then I can go out and get proposals based on those particular specifications and get quotes and see if we can get it done, so.
and the other key part,
Was?
he contacted in that correspondence Eversource, who will do energy audits of our buildings, so that if we do some upgrades to the efficiencies of the building, they will give us rebates on the system and the improvements, let's
Right.
call it.
Yeah, and actually, now that you mention it, Margaret Dillon was copied on that email, and in Wilton, we used Margaret to do that type of study for the Wilton Town Hall before we renovated it.
Did you get a chance to respond to her?
I didn't respond to her directly, no.
She sent one through this afternoon.
Oh, did she? I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was her or not, but it was whoever it is from
Yeah.
Eversource
Yeah.
responded.
Yeah,
They-
she's
they'd love to
actually
get
a
involved and-
subcontractor, but
So.
she does the energy audits, and based on some of her recommendations, you know, we did certain steps before we started the renovation to kind of get ready to, you know, insulate the building, spray foam, you know, from the foundation up in certain areas and et cetera. So that we made it a lot more, you know, kind of a more sealed envelope before we invested in the other technologies. And we happened to use heat pumps for the section of the building that we renovated.
Were you able to be sure that the buildings are gonna be open on Thursday?
So I already talked to Mark about it, he's gonna be available, I'm gonna try to be there myself, but I got several other things going on
I'm
that
trying
day.
to be there.
Yeah.
I've got it plugged into the calendar.
Yeah, so, my intention is to be there at 2:30 at the start at the fire station. But I do have the pre-bid meeting for the salt shed and some other things going on. And who knows what's gonna happen in the town clerk's office on Thursday, so, I'm gonna have to keep my options open. Yeah, with the town clerk's office, it's gonna be the last day open for this month, so I don't know whether to anticipate long lines of people trying to renew their registrations.
It's not the last week of the month.
I mean,
They still got another week, right?
Last day open, no,
last 2 days.
Halloween Saturday.
Yeah, people have to
Oh,
register.
yeah.
They have to
Yeah.
register their car
Oh,
Thursday.
you're gonna have
They-
lines.
Right. Well, that's what my concern is.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, we've been lucky that the lines have died right down, because Debbie's been able to keep up, but, I'm anticipating that Thursday could be a challenge.
Now, since we're in budget season, I don't know where this falls, but when do the roads start being discussed? Like what's on the schedule for next year, like what we're gonna put up for warrant?
When
And
you get to
then the
warrant
road-
articles, I'd assume.
Okay, and then at what point does the roads committee from last year get involved?
Same point in time.
Well, I guess it all depends on whether we just go ahead and put that right onto those warrant articles or whether we submit them as we did last year.
I think it'd be better to have them pre, right? Yeah,
I don't care if it's on there or not, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, if somebody feels it's better to have it on there, fine with me.
mm-hmm. Well, when you're deciding on the, like the sums of money, isn't it based on what project? No, so you don't pick them
No.
until after,
No, the sum is always the same.
okay,
But then we kind of say what our thoughts are for the, finish this road, reclaim this road, do this road, and like, I think,
Peter's gonna go out and measure it and say, okay, you can go and do this much for that amount of money.
yeah.
okay,
But like kind of what we've been trying to do is, obviously we were going for the feeder roads, but we've also kind of go, okay, get rid of a dirt, reclaim a crap one, pretty up something that's there.
And that's why if we're going on, cause last year we said we had to relook at Collins because of the incline at the end. That's something that we would either need to come up with a plan on how that's gonna get addressed.
yeah, that's why I didn't know at what point that gets decided, but,
Well, Peter was supposed to have been looking at that to see, is it something that we need engineered, or is there a way to make it work, since I wasn't aware that the, property between the two roads is the town's property.
mhm,
So, I was thinking if that was somebody else's property, then we'd get into more issues, but it's not.
okay,
But
And I
yeah,
don't know where.
but
it is.
the amount that's been going forth has been going forth for several years, the 250, 350.
It's 2008, I think.
I just didn't know if it was gonna, cause I knew Collins was gonna take more, wasn't it?
It's not gonna take any more than like when we did River Road and some other road.
Okay,
You know, and I think Collins, I would advocate if we're gonna do it, is that, again, we don't do a top coat. Put down the binder, get it all done, put the binder on, let it sit, just like we did on Hubbard Pond.
mhm,
Let it
Cause then
sit
if
for
there's
a year.
any movement, you can fix that with the, before you put the finish coat.
yeah. Okay,
Motion, non-public, and before, I'd like to have a recess for
Okay.
a few minutes.
even Ben,
Two D, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal goods.
Is there a second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.